for me, it's getting outside, riding bikes, 200 miles at a time. For New Year's, I rode down to Mexico just to get some tacos. The Border Patrol was a little bit curious as to why some guy shows up in spandex and a bike for tacos coming from the LA area. But that's been a great way for me to just keep peace of mind and actually get a lot healthier. I managed to actually lose 20 pounds during the pandemic when I think most people probably were going
That's
the other
incredible.
direction.
That's incredible.
So that type of consistency really helped with me. But additionally, it was maintaining perspective on the mental side, really understanding that, the situation with the pandemic and with life as a whole right now it's just a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty isn't necessarily good nor bad. It's just uncertain. It's a state of mind, a state of existence. And once you kind of accept that, hey, it's okay to be uncertain about things, it makes the doom and gloom of a global pandemic feel a little bit easier to manage. For me personally, it was an amazing opportunity. I, at the time, for almost a decade, had been in consulting, been traveling 250, 300 nights a year. And so for me, the pandemic really kind of opened my eyes to saying, hey, this whole no travel thing is actually enjoyable. I should maybe make an entirely different career change here. And so at that point in time, I was leaving consulting and said, hey, I'll find a new job with CoreLogic here, and had the privilege of coming on board and actually not continuing to not travel for work. And it's been amazing. So to me, it really was about maintaining that perspective that, hey, this is an opportunity to completely change things up. There's definitely a lot of downside for a global pandemic, a lot of people struggling. I was able to find that silver lining a little bit for myself to say, hey, this is an entirely new chapter for me, and getting out of the constant new city every day type kind of situation that consulting brings.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. There's a lot there. First off, again, congratulations on the weight loss.
Thanks.
Was that something that was an outcome, or that was something you wanted to do?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, I knew I could probably lose a few pounds. For me, though, it was, again, not traveling and not eating out and, grabbing drinks with clients and doing all the things that comes in part with that type of lifestyle. Was amazingly healthy for me. I started, being able to ride my bike a lot more, to get in the gym and, or at least do some sort of outdoor workout, not necessarily out at the gym, and being able to cook for myself. I probably have lived at Chipotle for the better part of a decade. While I love Chipotle and I maintain it's healthy ish, when you start ordering 2 burritos at a time, maybe not so much. And so, just being able to be at home and cook and whatnot, it just kind of, worked out for me that it was a much more balanced and healthy lifestyle, actually.
I'm so happy you said that. I was actually thinking Chipotle. It's one of my go-to when I'm on the road places. And, for me, and again, for everyone, this is the data standard, and we're with Ty Tucker. He's calling in from California, and we're so happy to have you on the show here. And as we talk about how we kind of got through those hacks of last year, a lot of our community members went to different places to get to a nice place of balance. Some learned new instruments. Some learned, a lot of people did creative things. It was like painting, music. A few people started to do hardcore exercise, but it wasn't, I think it was just an outcome. I don't think anyone was like, I want to get into shape. It's just like, I want to just get out of the house and stay healthy. And for me, as I say, I've done a lot of journaling. That was nice. And I've cut back about 90% of my TV. I don't even watch cable news anymore. I still get my news, but it's how I get it is different. I listen to a lot more podcasts and things on YouTube for news. I'm more maybe independent kind of news, but a nice range of it. So I think that's been nice. To the travel. I loved being on the plane. There was something about being in an airport, flying, going to a new city. And staying in hotels. I like that. That to me, that feels comfortable. So I do appreciate what you said. And when you don't have it, I don't miss it. But I don't miss the, I want to change my flight because I want to fly out earlier, but now there's like this horseshit penalty on the fare. Like how many times were the horseshit of like, your ticket is not of any value because after we change it and give you the new fare, we'll give you $15 for it. Like to me, I don't miss those. Have you had stories like that where what are things that you don't miss? Like the travel?
I mean, the travel for me, I did one stint where I did 26 cities in 21 days, flying in, flying out. And I was so exhausted by the end of it that I booked my return trip. At the time I was living in Orlando, I booked my return trip. I was out in the valley coming from San Jose to Orlando. The problem was I booked my return trip out of San Jose, Costa Rica instead of San Jose, California. And then, which ended up resulting me in needing to take a red eye to Detroit, down to Orlando. I covered the entire US just because I was so exhausted. So for me, I don't miss that type of travel. I enjoy travel as well. I can fall asleep on a plane instantly. It's a place where I can truly relax in many ways. But for me, I think, the biggest things that I think have changed about the pandemic is that people have a lot more empathy for people's situations. I think previously, the world was so caught up in the next deal, the next job, the next promotion, next raise. And sometimes this has really made the entire world slow down. In some areas, far too much. In some areas, probably not enough. Our healthcare workers are still putting in the grind and being able to keep everybody safe and whatnot. And that's exhausting for them. But I think for a lot of people, it has given us the perspective to really embrace the unknown, but also just simply be more empathetic to people. And especially in the last month or two here, I think we have, as the vaccines have started to roll out, there's at least a little bit of end in sight. So the biggest thing for me is I don't miss the I don't know how to really explain it. It's not necessarily the grind. I love, the grind of work and going after big things and whatnot, but it was almost a reckless abandon of going after everything, especially career-wise. I think, for me, I've moved around 33 times. This is my 33rd move. I've seen how work dynamics work within a multitude of, Fortune 500 companies, startups, and, small companies, everything in between. I've seen it across a bunch of different geographies. And the thing that I've noticed is that everybody's taking a breath right now and being a little bit more grateful for what we have. And I'm hoping that continues. I think companies are being more flexible with their employees, allowing them to recognize that, we're not widgets. It's very much about finding that balance in all things. So
what's interesting is you've traveled to so many cities. I did the Silicon Valley to Miami exodus during COVID. So I'm part of the people that left California. I follow what's going on with Gavin Newsom. And, I'm in a different city. You've traveled to different cities. I don't think there's a right or a wrong, but it's just amazing. It's just amazing what's going on in California. And that's not a good or a bad to the governor, but I think the recall is going to happen. I think he will stay. I think he is so loved in that state, but I think it's a wake-up call. I think there are some things that, a lot of people have done that should or shouldn't, but what are you seeing where you are with the recall? Are people talking about it? Or are you seeing it as much as I'm seeing it as someone who's not in California, but reading headlines?
Yeah, realistically, I don't really hear a whole lot about it. Now, to be fair, I moved here sight unseen, not knowing a single person. So while I happen to be in office, one of the few that is in office for us, my social interaction is extremely limited, as is my probably awareness of what's going on in California. I felt my first earthquake the other month, and now we've had fire. So these were all new things for me.
I know.
I've been maybe a little less concerned about some of the political ongoings, and quite honestly, I just don't know the nuance that existed. Obviously, there's a lot of political dynamics going on here of people and around the country of people wanting to wear masks, not wear masks. How are we handling the entire pandemic? And being able to keep small businesses afloat. I think you said it right. There is no good answer. I think every answer it's a situation. You've got to look at things at an individual basis. And, I don't relish anybody in a government position having to make decisions for the masses when each situation is pretty unique. So,
I agree. and I bring that up is because you've been to so many cities and lived in so many cities. When I did the exodus to Miami, I couldn't believe people just weren't wearing masks. It was just insane. I thought I was in a different country, and that's not good or bad. It was just, I just couldn't believe it. It's just, to me, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you're seeing a mix of everything here. You're seeing some companies go, fully remote. Obviously, you're seeing some companies in hybrid models for, to be able to support employees who may not necessarily have a home office. I think that's a big thing in California is that, real estate is so expensive here.
Yeah.
Decide to go buy that extra, home office den or whatever in a house, and it costs you $200,000 just for that one extra room that you never probably thought you'd ever use. So I think a lot of companies here are looking at, potential hybrid models from a long-term perspective, just to get some people back in. I think there's a lot of
what do you think your company's going to do? Have they publicly announced what their plan is?
No, not yet. We are actually in the midst of a potential merger/acquisition. So for us, our focus is primarily there and ensuring that we're able to bring stockholder value as much as we possibly can. From the employee perspective, we've communicated that, hey, we have executives in the office for right now, just keeping kind of, a sense of unity and cohesiveness to everything. And then over time, we'll probably get back to a point where, we do have people in office, we may have hybrid situations, maybe some remote situations. I think with us, we do still appreciate, the in-person aspect of things. And I think my own personal opinion is that I think people can be successful in either way, but people tend to lean one way or the other on it. There are people that I've got friends who said, God, this working remote thing is terrible for me. I can't get anything done. I've got 3 kids, they're running around screaming, I'm going nuts. I can't wait to get back in the office. And then you've got others who are saying, this remote work is providing me flexibility that I've never had before. Similar to, how all responses with the pandemic are somewhat situational and individual in nature. I think it'll be interesting to see how this dynamic continues to evolve. And I think for us, for me, I'm a data guy. I love data. And fortunately at CoreLogic, we do a lot with property data. So I'm seeing all this data coming in around the commercial spaces and all the residential spaces and the change that we're seeing. And it's immensely interesting because, we're seeing people like you leaving California, going to Miami. We're seeing the movement of people, the change of business operational paradigms. It's wildly fascinating when you do look at some of the data aspects of things. So I think it's going to continue to be an evolving message. I think, everybody's going to probably settle somewhere in the middle. I don't think remote is going to be 100% here to stay, for everybody. And I don't think being in office 100% for everybody will stay.
Yeah, I agree. Can you share something with the data that you're seeing that you can share? Like I'm as a data geek also, like, what have you seen that either surprised you or validated your gut? Or just share something that you can share that you've worked on or you've seen.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that I'm getting to work on is a little bit around our affordable housing solutions that there is, you look at everything in the news and nobody can afford a house. The affordability crisis is through the roof. And what a lot of people don't necessarily understand is that it's affecting all different demographics. It's affecting all different income levels. There's about a 4.5 million unit being, house or a townhouse, condo, et cetera, essentially a place to live, a 4.5 million unit gap in terms of supply and demand. We had expected during the pandemic that potentially some of that would be able to catch back up, with things in many industries being stalled and whatnot. We were saying, okay, well, hey, people aren't moving around as much. So maybe the builders, the developers are able to actually help catch up. One of the interesting things, though, is that because of the pricing components of labor and materials, and more so the materials aspects of things, they've just gone through the roof, that it's made it very hard to build kind of those starter homes, those middle income homes. So builders and developers are having to build in the more luxury space, which, is great if you're in that space, but a large part of the country is not, ready to pony up, $600,000 for a 2-bed, 2-bath somewhere in a walkable area. So because of those dynamics, we're having to see, you know, how do we get people talking, right? How do you get the cities themselves talking with the developers, with the land, you know, owners, with the various nonprofits and subsidy agents? Right now, it takes almost 7 years to get a subsidized affordable housing play in action. 7 years. That gap of 4.5 million isn't going to be shrinking when you're maybe putting in, you know, 10 to 20 units every 7 years for a given zip code. You know, one of the things that we're really working heavily on is being able to bring people to the table. You know, I think the pandemic has presented a unique opportunity in the sense that everybody's saying, okay, we're all remote, we're all in disparate places. It's okay. Let's bring all our data together in some of these cloud-based technologies. You know, Snowflake's a great example with their data exchanges and how they're connecting people, data suppliers, data people who are wanting that data, right? They're allowing us to utilize a clean room to be able to all put data in together into a normalized data model to be able to do some analysis to figure out, you know, where should we be building? What should we be building in terms of, you know, house design, and not in one of those situations of, hey, let's go build a, you know, a 1 bed, 1 bath out in the middle of nowhere because land is cheap. It's finding the optimal mix of, you know, closeness to jobs, walkability, nearby to restaurants, schools, income levels, and trying to find a balanced solution to being able to solve housing. And it's been amazing to see how receptive people are to working together. And prior to the pandemic, I don't know that was really the case. I think a lot of people were like, this data is mine, I'm not going to share it with you. And there's obviously, you know, a lot of components to things. You know, we're a data company, obviously, like, you know, our business is selling data, but it used to be that I think just people in general were so closed off about their data. But when you start combining data from all these different places, you're seeing solutions just go so much quicker and be much more advanced, right?
And
so I
you
think
said something about a clean room. I've not heard that phrase before. What is a clean room, or is that specific to a vendor?
It's a newish technology. I mean, there's a couple providers that have these type of things. Think of it as like a black box where everybody can put the data in and it lands and it's, you know, it's into a normalized data model, and you can see the query if you like your query. If I want to query this black box and because I know the normalized model, I know all the headers and the columns, right? I can query upon that and I'm going to get a result set back. I cannot see somebody else's query that maybe they've contributed to the black box as well. I can't see their query pattern unless we come to an agreement that says, hey, you can see my queries, I can see your queries, which, you know, gets really interesting as you start to look into data exchanges as a competitive advantage, because I can go and put, say, our property data up on an exchange, and maybe Experian, maybe, you know, DMB, somebody with more PII financial personal data, right, wants to put an index into that black box as well. And now we're bringing property data, we're bringing credit data, we're bringing all this types of data together, but we're all doing so in a way that is anonymized. So we're not like having to worry about violations of GDPR, CCPA. You know, we're doing so in a way that protects our own business interest. You know, I shouldn't be able to see what, you know, Experian is doing queries on, right? Like that's their secret sauce, if you will. That, you know, they're not going to want to show me their secret sauce. You know, so it's a new collaborative technology. I kind of think of it as it's an evolution of Slack and Teams, only with data, right? Slack and Teams, it's like we bring people together, we collaborate. It's a collaboration tool for data. I can bring people from all different walks of life who have data, put it into a black box together, make our super set, our super data set even bigger, more robust, more available.
I love it.
I think it's going to really change the way you see a lot of industries operate. Specifically at public sector, I think has got some of the biggest potential with all the different agencies and the data that they have. Being able to bring them all together would allow for it.
Now, what company can you plug that's doing that? Is that what Snowflake is doing? Or
yeah, Snowflake's doing that. You know, they just had their huge IPO the other month.
Yep.
You know, they're continuing along with their good work and being able to.
I love it.
To really do a lot of awesome stuff with the clean rooms.
I think that's great. I mean, this is community. You see how we started this. So community, and you're right about Slack. It's how I also heard the Slack part is like you can have your employees on there, but you can also invite, you know, vendors and other people on it, but they can't see private channels. I see what you're saying. It's I like the way the world is going. Yeah, it's a very mature.
It's the democratization of data, right?
Yep.
Like, and when you actually put data out there, and get people utilizing it in conjunction with their own data, you can make amazing insight that previously simply wasn't available.
I think that's pretty neat. We are a community, and we're here to help each other. And there are people, the reason why I do a podcast is I get to spend some nice time, meaningful quality time with you uninterrupted. And then from here, I usually make, a few introductions, because now I know the community. I kind of say, oh, so if I can introduce you to our community, is there a sector you want to meet? Because these are all senior executives. Is there a sector? Is there a skill set? Is there a size? Because I'd like you to meet other people. And if you don't have to do a Zoom call, but you figure out your calendar how you want. But again, this has always been about breaking up the self-isolation and meeting some people that could need a hug. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love to talk to other executives in the financial services industry.
Okay.
We do business personally with 24 of the top 25 lenders in America. And we try to be able to give them the insight necessary to de-risk loans, to be able to lend to more people, right? And talking about affordability crisis, to me, that's a big passion project of mine, trying to find a way to solve that. And by us partnering with some of these lenders and these other institutions to essentially further our mission. Our mission is to help people buy, find, and protect homes. It's the largest financial asset. So for us, the more people we can put in homes and help them in that journey, that to me is awesome. So executives within the financial services are always interested. Anybody who just wants property data. We've got a lot of fun property data, quite honestly.
Is that and that property data, some of it's public that you can
a lot of it. So it's a lot of it public. We have the most robust property data set for the US, Australia, and parts of Europe as well. I will say, it's public data. It's a very heavy inference-based data from ML AI models that we do. If you're familiar with the HPI index that pretty much every government agency utilizes to determine home pricing index of how the entire housing market is trending. It's a mix of public and our own personal assets.
No, that's wonderful. That's why we have this type of community. When else are we going to meet, right? So I don't know, right? So this, to me, and I always said to the community, 2022, we're going to have a party, and we might be celebrating the end of the community because everyone's out. So if this means the community is just for now, where we can break up the isolation and help people just connect, I'm okay with that. So
yeah, I think there's a place for this, moving forward. Just like we discussed kind of the hybrid versus remote versus in office, it's going to be a balance moving forward. And then there's going to be people who still need community as a whole that they may not get, right? And I think as we see people move away from maybe bigger city centers for those companies that are fully remote and they don't, they want to just go to a cheaper cost of living or something that fits their lifestyle better, they're still going to have that need for community. I think that's a big realization we're seeing as well, is that, somebody thought that the life of moving off into the mountains of, Colorado or something, and then they're realizing, I've seen a bear and I've seen, a mountain cat, and maybe I saw the garbage man as he picked up my stuff. Like that community I think it's going to be eye-opening for people maybe who are used to being in cities and whatnot.
No, that's funny. No, that's great. Ty, this is a joy. You've helped make my day. So I appreciate you coming onto the show. I usually share these stories at our family dinner. They go, how was your day? I go, I meet another interesting person. So you make it to the family dinner agenda. We are sponsored by Pandio, and we're grateful for you giving us your time. And there will be some meaningful connections I hope I can help you make.
Yeah, that'd be great. Looking forward to it.
And thanks again for being on the show.